Oh, okay, Brad. I don't know. Okay, I'm set.
You there? You good?
I'm home. What's up? What's up?
Nothing. Just another day, another Sunday. The warm weather's evidently gone. We're
Oh my
we're
gosh.
freezing today, so
What's up with that? We had I didn't
it's
realize
unbelievable.
there was ice on my windows this morning.
It froze.
Yeah, I didn't realize it.
The last time I remember it freezing in Wichita, Kansas, um, Halloween or before was like literally early 1990s. I was framing houses and remember one
Yeah.
Halloween or close to Halloween it snowed.
Yes.
But generally our cold, extreme cold especially, has been hitting us around after even the New Year. It's usually been like late January, early
Yeah.
February, and
Well, we've had a lot of a memory you apparently have forgotten. Do you remember doing the oil changes for the church
I do.
and it snowed?
Yeah. Well, was that this time?
It was. I think it was before Halloween. I might be wrong. It might
Slushy
have.
parking lot. I was thinking
Usually,
it was,
go well because they just did them at the church last weekend, so that's why it made me think
yeah.
maybe. So maybe not.
They might have done it a different month or something.
They might have done it.
They might
later.
have got wise and hey, what do you say we move it to a warmer month?
I
Especially
remember what
after
month it was actually.
the slush
was a
and big
mess.
stuff. That experience, I'm sure, wasn't
water
fun to work
everywhere.
on cars in. So I bet they just
Yeah.
decided to move it to a warmer month.
Yeah, they could have.
Who knows?
Yeah,
But nevertheless, here we are down in the basement again. We're in a different corner this time. Just
you got a lot of corners down here.
yeah. We got a big Duke over your head, John Wayne.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. You got a big safe over here.
yeah, that's all my worthless items.
Yeah,
And, but there's another one of those vehicle cars that we always have behind us when we're sitting at the bar. But that's a fire truck there.
yeah.
I don't know why those keep popping up in my world. So I keep buying them, but they've always been reasonable. I've never
Right.
splurged on one. I don't collect them. I just some reason they keep popping up for really good
Some
price.
reason you started collecting them
So I just bought them all. Yeah.
because you've got a car over here nobody can see.
Oh yeah.
The car behind us that we set when we sat at the bar,
Yeah.
and then this one over here.
Couple on the floor.
Man, but you don't collect them. I'm glad.
Well, have you ever seen another one like it? I mean, think about it.
Just here.
Well,
Well,
that's my point. Is I
right.
have not either, but except I've seen them like 4 or 5 places. They keep showing up in my world.
Yeah.
And anybody else that's ever come in here, I tell them about. And no one's ever seen one that I know of out in the wild besides me.
Yeah, and you grab them when you see them. That's what I'm saying, but I'm glad you're not collecting them because
Right.
then they would be everywhere. When I see them, I buy them.
Anyways, this
That's
furniture was my mom's and her late husband Dick
Yeah.
LeMay, and this came from Dick's house down in Tulsa.
Yeah.
I think he probably had it for a
Comfy.
while. So, old,
It's old.
heavy duty
This is
leather,
very old.
kind of cool furniture.
Trying not to slide out of it.
Yeah, I don't get. Remember the dog used to
Yeah.
land and kick all the cushions off
Nonstop,
on Mom's living
man.
room.
You had to kick the dogs off so you could have a place to take a nap. These are the best napping freaking couches there are.
Unless you have some bare skin exposed.
Yeah.
Then it's
you
still fine. You
stink.
just got to peel yourself off of it.
Yeah. as you roll around, but it isn't too bad. Conversations, we really didn't talk about what we want to talk about. And I guess if you're going to have a conversation, you don't always have to talk about it, but we can just start talking.
Well, anytime we're around each other, any other time other than in front of we don't have a plan.
No, we're not supposed to have a plan, right?
No, it actually to me makes it a little bit more interesting because we get to just kind of shoot from the hip, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I think that's never been an issue in terms of just conversation.
Shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was telling you a story earlier when you first got over here as we were setting up about the Great Flood and was talking about the entire Earth. During the 40 days and 40 nights of rain was
Yes.
completely covered in water.
Yep.
So I was talking to my brother, and I was having these deep thoughts about, okay, well, if it's completely covered in water, water's in different forms, right? It goes up in evaporation and it formulates in the sky as clouds and comes back down as
Yeah.
rain, and then but I'm thinking, okay, so there must not have been any clouds if the earth was completely covered in water, because all the water that was available would have been on the surface, right? Must have been really clear days during the great flood after the rain.
After it quit raining, right?
Because all the water was on the earth. But I was asking my brother, like, no one ever asked, like, where did the water go? Does the water leave the atmosphere? If it evaporated, does that much water, can the atmosphere hold that much water, or did it go into the earth underground, as aquifers, underground lakes, things like that, which are obviously springs?
Yep.
There's a lot of water under the ground. I know here where we live, it's really, really near to the Arkansas River, and
Yeah.
what is it, about 13 to 15 feet, the water table down from the surface?
Yeah. No, it's water's everywhere. It absorbed in the earth, like you said, I'm sure. And clouds formed, it held it, and whatever happened, after that, God took care of it. That's the answer I like. That's the easy one. God took care of it, Brad.
Yeah. Well, that. Honestly, that is the
That's what happened.
that is the answer,
That's the answer
that you really kind of need to adhere to, because
it scientifically can be proven what happened, I'm sure. That's the nice thing about the Bible. A lot of this stuff is now being backed by science. People are finally letting go. Well, we can prove that. Yeah, it did happen that way.
Well, I heard a theologian actually speak on it one time, and he was talking of the great flood, and how carbon dating is the way in which scientists determine how old bones are.
Yeah.
And this particular theologian was speaking about it, and he was saying, well, if you have an incredible amount of pressure, say you have animals or dinosaurs that are completely overrun with flood or mudslides or whatever, and they're just buried under this mud and sediment, and then there's a great amount of pressure, water on top of them, and that would make potentially them fossilize or maybe date quicker. And it would also explain why when people find like a skeleton of a dinosaur, it generally is kind of intact.
Yeah.
If it was an animal that died and was eaten, you would think its body would be strewn about, bones everywhere.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's a lot of information about, scriptural perspective of dinosaurs, and how, the Bible can account for the things that, have happened. Contrary to, quite honestly, what I was taught in school.
Yeah.
I was taught more about Darwin, the theory of evolution, in school.
Always, yeah.
And, as a Christian, I don't believe that now. I do believe that there's some evolutionary characteristics in everything, because you have to adapt, more adaptation.
That's different than transforming.
It's not just not a genetic transformation, but through crossbreeding and things like that, you can have different.
Well,
species,
you can change.
but it's not necessarily evolution,
right? I mean, in your particular case, I mean, being a man of fairly tall stature at your 6'4" plus height, and then you marry a 5 something lady, and you're throwing some extra height into her part of that family, the Solis family. Your girls are fairly tall, and they're taller than some of the other cousins that they have. So I mean, that's changing. That's evolution. That type of thing is what you're talking about.
But
that happens a lot.
Sure, that's just two different types of people.
Two different types of people, different cultures from different areas, and then that's how things change, right? Sure, sounds good.
Yeah, and so anyways, with that whole thing, how it all came to be, with the ark and Noah and the animals 2 by 2, And so many things about that make, if you look at it at face value, you're like, this is crazy.
Seems crazy.
But then, again, you mentioned it a second ago. It's like, it's God,
God.
and you can't put limitations on that.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy to think about. It's a lot to wrap your mind around, and going along, you talked about dinosaurs, but one thing that's, somebody also had kind of to dispute the Bible. They talk about the Bible has the word or the animal unicorn in it. Like, I think it's somewhere like 14 different times they talk about unicorns. Talking about unicorns. And people are like, see right there, that tells you that the Bible is fictitious because unicorns don't exist and never have existed. But if I saw this reel the other day, they were talking about unicorns. And if you go back into the Bible, when they talk about unicorns, and then if you also go back into the early 1800s in the Webster Dictionary, a unicorn back in the biblical days, they are referring to what we now call rhinoceroses because there are different types of rhinos.
Interesting.
And the word unicorn is basically just meaning singular horn.
Right.
And they have and also in the Bible is, as besides a unicorn, is a bicorn because there's a two-horned rhinoceros as well, and they still exist today. And at some point, the word unicorn moved over.
Did you say bicorn?
Bicorn.
Now it's bihorn?
Bicorn, unicorn, bicorn.
All right, but now it would be antlers, but it would
right,
be
but in the rhinoceros,
a horn, not a corn.
Right, but that's what they call them, unicorns and bicorns in the Bible, and they're in there. It's in there, but what they're talking about is rhinoceros.
I've never seen.
So that's interesting.
I've never actually seen the unicorn in the Bible, but I've heard about the behemoth and the leviathan, which is the behemoth. It talks about one or the other of them having a tail like a tree trunk. Just it was just a huge animal,
right?
And so, but I'd never heard of unicorn. But you're not talking about the fairy type
not talking about the
horse with wings and a
fictitious
rainbow horn.
This is a fictitious animal, but a unicorn existed in the Bible, but they are referring, the unicorn basically is referring to the rhinoceros.
That's interesting.
What I thought, which was cool, because that's what happens over time, the translation of different things, and from Hebrew to Greek and all those different things happens. And it's there. The guy, whoever it was, explained it very well. And I was like, wow, okay, there you go, people. There's your unicorns. And they did exist, but not as a horse.
Right. Well, it's really cool. I mean, you were just talking about a guy, and I was talking about a guy. And just as you get into this, like, this walk, this Christian walk, you kind of start to kind of seek out people who have interpretations of Scripture and
trying to understand
and theory that goes along with it, trying to understand it. Yeah. So it's kind of just interesting. Just as we sit here and talk about it, there's always a sense of wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's really cool because if you think about the word wonder, children have more than anyone, because just everything's so new to them. And so they have this all sense of wonder. But I think as you get older, that whole sense of wonder kind of fades away a little bit because,
it's beat out of you.
Yeah, you work 9 to 5 and you walk the same route to and from work every day and you sit in the same chair and everything becomes so mundane and routine. But I think that's the neatest thing about the Bible is that you really don't ever lose that. There's always a sense of like I want to know this or that or what have you, and I don't think that I don't think that any of it's attainable. I don't think you can know it all or know enough. And so that sense of wonder or curiosity or however you want to say it, it just never leaves.
Yeah, well, that's what helps. If you can continue that, and I think that's the Bible helps you keep it. If you're constantly reading the Bible, and I'm not saying I am, as I've said multiple times, it's one thing I'm still not great at. But as you read the Bible, and if you truly want to learn about it, it's a constant thing where you're studying and you're reading it over and over again. You go back, you're trying to find cross references, and it's something you're constantly trying to grasp at, and which stimulates your brain, that helps you keep that wonder. And where a lot of things today, you're just you take it at face value and you move on and go, oh, that's cool, and you go on. It's kind of like a musical instrument. It's something that you're never going to be perfect at.
No.
If you're striving to be better, that's the same thing as the Bible. A musical instrument and the Bible, as you train yourself every day, you're going to learn a little bit more, and you're going to get better at things. And if you're truly trying to be, and they have a real good connection. I think they do something, from my understanding, it does something to your brain as well, to where you're stimulating parts of your brain that actually creates more growth.
Yeah.
The same way reading the Bible does the same thing as learning a language
Right.
does, and learning an instrument. It doesn't have to be a guitar. I just picked guitar because that's about the only thing I can play anymore, and I'm not that good at it. But it's just something, if you do it every day, it stimulates your brain and you become more curious, and it does, and that wonder keeps moving. You're like, gosh, dang, I'm
but it's got to be,
it.
It's got to be something that has no attainable end.
You're always searching.
Yeah, there's no end game. There's no, okay, I have a, I guess
I can't get any better.
Maybe I can't get any better. And except with Christianity, maybe in death, as you enter the kingdom of heaven, then there's no more sin or evil.
Yeah.
Then, I guess to a degree
you'll be able to see the ultimate goal at that time when we're there. We'll be in the presence of it.
Right.
I don't know that we will be, I don't know how that makes us. I think we're better than what we are now, but we're just, worshiping that.
Right. I don't know the level of any of it. No one does. And I think that's the glorious thing about it, is there's this level of faith, which we talked about today, that you have to have, because you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. You hope that it's that it's what you expect, and according to Scripture, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has conceived what the Lord has prepared for those who love Him. So what heaven is, who knows? No, but it obviously is going to be incredible compared to what we can even think of, fathom, make up in our minds. So, and they just take that, and that should be enough, shouldn't it? It's going to be better than this, obviously.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, it wouldn't take much to be better than this, and the way things are going. Yeah. But that's just a crappy thing, we throw out there. But to be able to think of, if I had, we just had a lottery here, a month or two ago, that somebody won $1.7 billion. Somebody got a ticket for that.
California?
Yeah, I think somebody in California got it.
Why does all the big ones go to California?
They go everywhere but here. But whatever.
I tell you, I won $10,000 on a lottery ticket one time.
I don't remember you winning $10,000.
I won $10,000 one week, and I won $1,000 the next week.
Yeah.
And I
remember that.
I haven't won anything since.
Yeah.
I don't buy them much anymore. My motto was hey, I'm ahead. There's no way I can,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to do better than what I've just done. I might as well just be content with my.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'm with you. If I won 1.7 billion, obviously they're not going to hand you 1.7 billion.
No.
You might get half of that if you're lucky once everything's done. And I don't know if that's even that, but still.
And then every bad friend and bad relative you've had in your world is going to show up at your doorstep.
People you know and don't know.
Right.
You could buy everything you wanted with that kind of money, but and I can imagine what I would get if I was just stupid with it and what I would do. But my point was, if you pictured your life on earth with that kind of money to do anything and everything you wanted to possibly do, you would never come close to the possibility of the greatness that you're going to experience.
Right. And there's so many accounts in the Bible that depict that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm building there's a mansion for you in heaven.
Right.
There are streets of gold. There's like the verse I just mentioned, where no eye is seen, no ear is heard, and no mind is conceived what the Lord has prepared for those who love Him. And but it also says no one really knows. So, but it says also to live as Jesus and to die as gain.
Yeah.
Which again depicts a better life. So, and the Bible also talks about we're not living or working to gain something here on this earth. It's not about this existence on this earth. It's about the existence to come, about the everlasting, eternal life that follows.
I wonder if a lot of people think about, because I just really thought about it just now, the life in heaven. Besides, like I just said, I described all this monetary stuff here. If I had all this money and what my life would be, and then you go to heaven and you're living however we're living, kind of like what you just described. But the difference is we're going to be living there without the struggles of what goes on here, the hell on earth that we're living through now, the pain, the suffering, the emotional ups and downs of life here, and being concerned with all the stuff that you're concerned about. I mean, if you just stop and think about, oh, look, I got to go do this tomorrow.
No death, no sickness.
Yeah. So if you take all of that out of your life as well,
wow. How much better can it
How
get?
much better would your life be if you didn't have any of those concerns anymore?
And then the only question I ever have, which is no one knows again, but how are you going to spend your day in heaven? Is it going to be 100% of the time worshiping God, or are you going to be able to go play baseball? Are you going to be able to play the guitar?
I think we have a job to do. We have a physical job to do. I think it's a physical job because we're going to be called up. When Dave talked about it, I think Dave talked about it today, didn't he? Well, I know I also listened to some other stuff today too, so I'm blending his message and some other stuff. But what I heard today, and it might not have been from Dave, is in the rapture.
Yeah.
So I know this wasn't from Dave. We're going to be called up.
Yeah.
Right? And you've heard this.
Sure.
And we're going to meet God in the clouds.
In the clouds.
Because He's bringing heaven to earth. And I know we've talked about this before, but what I was thinking about is we're just going to be called up and we're gone. We're going to be sitting like this, and all of a sudden, boom, we're gone physically.
Yeah.
It didn't say our bodies are limp bodies laying here.
No,
From all the understanding, it's like, boom,
well, it talks
gone.
about how there were 3 in a field and working in a field, then there was 2,
Okay, so why does He need our bodies? Because just like the resurrection of Christ, He still had His body when He came back. It was just renewed, but He still had, His obvious poke here, doubting Thomas. Here's my little spots here and here.
Right.
So we have something to do, but what is that? I have no idea, obviously. So, I mean, I think there's still, as in Adam and Eve, they had things to do.
They were
the
supposed
actual
to tend
garden
the garden.
was supposed to be taking care of the garden. So I think we're going to be in some way or another tending something. Maybe some of us are sweeping the leaves off the roads. I don't know.
Or harvesting the food.
Or maybe singing songs, like you said, playing guitar and using some of your gifts or what they are.
Right. And will our gifts be the same? There's just so many crazy questions that you can ask, but the bottom line is
I sing better. Play guitar better for sure.
Well, okay, so I just had another you definitely
that'd be awesome.
But I was thinking okay, but then what is the alternative,
Yeah.
And that's
here.
And no one really knows to that degree that other than fire and gnashing of teeth and evil and hell.
I think it might be a little bit like the Gaza Strip in Israel right now.
Maybe. Yeah, just survival and
something like that.
Terrible. Just decimation. Just no order. No purpose.
I saw a quote pop up the other day from MASH, Remember that?
Yeah,
MASH
the 401
4077 or something
yeah,
like
MASH
that.
4077.
And Hawkeye
Yeah.
was talking to the pastor. I can't remember his name, but somebody asked Hawkeye or maybe it was Hawkeye that asked the question, what's worse, hell or war? What's worse? And of course, the pastor immediately, the reverend or whatever, was like, well, probably hell.
Yeah.
And Hawkeye's point of view, I thought, was a pretty good point of view. He was like, war's much worse. People that they're going to be in hell deserve to be there. A lot of people that are in war did not deserve to be there. There's a lot of good people taking the punishment of the war.
Right. That's interesting.
And since we were kind of brought that up, and maybe it just clicked in my head, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So what they're going through over there right now has got to be basically like hell on earth. And I mean, they've gone through a lot of it in World War II and all these crazy wars.
Well, I don't think you ever become desensitized to death and war. Maybe you do, because I know you get desensitized to
Kind
other
of numb.
things.
Yeah.
But
it would just be sad. We haven't experienced it here.
thank God.
Thank God. I mean, we on this country we have in many ways, and lots of wars have been on Earth here as well. But nothing recent.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And you see the way things are right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and who knows what ends up becoming of it. And what's scary though in the midst of it all is just that there's something that's been like pushing our country down, and I don't know if it's intentional. I think it is, but or who's behind it. But it's just like where do you go from here? How do you make it better if your leadership is failing you, or if things don't make sense to you, and I said, I was like pounding myself, quandary the other day thinking about it. And I was like, well, I think the answer is just church. It's the church. You have to have a moral compass, and without that, I mean, who knows what's possible.
Well, and the sad thing, what's going on over there is we don't all have the same belief. Dave brought up today that in the Gaza there was 1,000 Christians that live.
Yeah.
In the Gaza Strip.
Yeah. Why?
And
I mean, I think
in the midst of all of it,
I would say they're missionaries. Wouldn't you?
I would think so. I mean, they're surrounded. I mean, the Gaza Strip is basically the Palestinians,
right?
And then Israel's mainly, obviously, Jewish faith. I'm sure there's
Palestinians in Israel.
There's some Palestinians there probably that are okay, but there's probably several Christians that also live in the Israel area. But that's primarily Jewish faith over there in Israel.
Yeah, and then he said that Israel getting ready to go in, a ground war into the Gaza Strip, that a Christian group decided or opted not to leave, and they're just hunkering down in their church, and so obviously pray for those people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is when they have different faith. That's what the scary thing is. They don't care what happens. They think, in a lot of ways, people of other faith think this is how they get to heaven, is because they kill those that are against them or do not believe the same way. Where Christianity is probably one of the only faiths that believes complete opposite of that. It's not to murder or to kill in any way those that don't believe what they believe. So
no, not at face value, not according to Scripture, but I do think there's times where Christians have been called to like, I think when the Jews went into Israel, I mean, I don't think they just walked into the land of milk and honey without conflict. I think there was huge conflict.
I agree with that.
And they were promised that land by God. So, that's the initiator of this whole conflict over there. It's a holy war because the Jews went into the land because they were promised that land by God, and the Palestinians. But I saw a deal today where that land has belonged to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Over the years,
Sure.
So,
I mean, could you imagine the Native Americans, the indigenous people, all of a sudden just like, the heck with you European white folks and whoever else is living here now, we're going to rise up and just start killing you.
right.
I mean, they've got every bit as right the same as Palestinians and the Israelites and Jews do the same way. They were here way before the Europeans.
Yeah, I don't get why it is that countries can't be content. If they're thriving, if they're doing okay, and they have enough resources to provide for their population and enough friendships and allies where they can get what they need, and hopefully enough resources where they can trade or barter or whatever to get what they need. And why isn't that enough? Why is it that people get enticed by breaking the borders? We talked about barriers and boundaries, and then all of a sudden I don't like my boundary. I'm just going to move my boundary and take some of your space.
Grass is always greener. Yeah. It's been going on for a long time, and the same with the indigenous American Indians, whatever is proper to say, indigenous people, all the tribes that were here on the states and North Americas. They had their boundary wars as well. So, I mean, it's not just an issue. Some of it was, for different reasons, hunting slid into, they're chasing buffalo into somebody else's boundaries. And so wars have been going on for years and years and years, but it's usually because, you know what, you look like you got it so much better over there, and you've got more of this than I do. Or some of it is, like, I think England was, when the Pilgrims came across, it was more, we're feeling suppressed. You're holding us down. You're beating us up.
Right. And so they moved here, and they created a really unique government.
And then they pushed themselves away, which a lot of the countries didn't do right away, from England, because England was, they still under, Canada for years. England was over them as well. I don't know that they are so much anymore. Not that I know that.
I don't think so.
Government history anymore. I think they've broken away, but nonetheless, Australia was that way for years, and all these places. But usually it's that, hey, I like what you've got. I'm going to go try to take it because you got better minerals over there. You've got gold that I don't have, and it's just people get so hungry for things they don't have.
If you're truly hungry, I almost get it. Like we can't survive. We can't make it. We need to go and figure out a better place that we can, live in.
Yeah.
And there becomes a time probably where you're so desperate that you're willing to fight to have to have that. But that's different. That's need.
Yeah.
Where the
not
other
greed.
Stuff is not, it's more greed. Where they're just like, I just want more. I've got enough to suffice, but just want more. And it's like, when are you going to be pleased? What is it you want? What is it? What is it that's ultimately going to satisfy you? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
And so, with that said, I mean, the people that are like that, they have to be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no end to what they're willing to do unless they are stopped.
Yeah.
So you either just let it happen, or you got to take some drastic measures.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where a lot of the failures over. I don't want to start ripping anybody apart here as far as Christianity goes, but the Catholic Church spread through England, and in the name of the Catholic Church, England would grow and grow and grow. Some of the rulers would use the faith as the reason. I got to get these pagans to become, under Catholic law and understand who Jesus was, and they use that as an excuse to expand their countries. And I don't know that was really what was going on. It was, I just want more land, because men are usually involved with that expansion, and that's what happens. Men get their own ideas as, they start beating their chests a little bit, and I've got to be the ruler of everything. And, you're not the king here, even though you've got the crown on your head. You're not the true king. And that's what happened. And England was, as big as it was, it could only grow physically. So many people can live on that little island. So they expanded and did all that crazy stuff. But people, like you said, you just got to understand, none of it goes with you. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what you have, and we need to be a little more like Christ was.
Well, I think that's what's weird about it, and I think people, or I can speak for myself, I won't speak for people, but I just have this hope and this faith in eternity and this heaven and that there's more to it. My soul's going to go on and after death, it's not the end. It's a beginning and of something great. If you have Christ as your Savior and so so I just don't I don't understand the concept of not making that a significant part of your pursuit in life.
Right.
Not that I'm great at it, I'm not. I fall short all the time, but I have this I have this internal fire that's constantly, tugging me that direction. I understand that I believe that there is eternity, and I believe that I believe that Jesus was who he said he was, and of course I made that decision to accept him into my life because I saw I saw hope. Apart from that, I don't know where people draw their hope from, and hope in what? If they have it, what are they hoping for? Because it can't be long-term eternal hope. If you don't have a sense of eternity and life after death, then where's your hope? Is it in tomorrow? Is it in how much money you make? Because like you said, you can't take that stuff with you, and how crazy it just seems to me that if you live a life of any kind of a life, as you go through it, you're constantly trying to mold yourself into what you hope Christ wants you to be, and that kind of gives you purpose and kind of goals and aspirations. And other than that, it's just I don't understand. I don't get it. Well, what is it that it is? What is it that people want that's going to satisfy them here on this earth?
Yeah.
In the end, and what if they're wrong? That's the sad part.
Well, I think, there's going to be a lot of people that are wrong, unfortunately, for them. I have a hard time now going back and I don't know that I've ever had this thought, but what drives you every day? Do you have anything that you think about? What drives you to keep doing what you're doing? What do you believe in? There's always something. What do you worship? What do you gather the most worth in the worship? That's part of, whatever you find the most worth in is what you worship.
Right.
And so what do most people worship? And a lot of it's money, a lot of people, and fame and stature. So
that I don't understand fame either.
Yeah.
Fame is like, what is that? You're getting a whole bunch of people to know you and like you who you don't even know.
Right. It's very narcissistic.
It's on
its own.
But why would you crave that?
Yeah.
What is it? What's the benefit of that?
Well, a lot of people, I think, crave it because they don't have anything that they worship or believe in that's bigger than they are. So if your only deity, your only idol is yourself, to have as many people as possible look at you and go, wow, that guy's awesome.
Validates what I think about myself.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of people live that way, and some of them are in a lot smaller area or a lot smaller grid than like movie stars are or rock stars are, whoever those people are, some politicians out there, but they live in their own little world. They live because, what I did in high school?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they still got those high school, some of those high school friends they hang out with that go, you know, every other weekend. It's kind of like the Al Bundy thing, you know, I did this or that and football.
We were wild in high school.
Yeah. You know, they lived through those Friday night lights over and over again until they're in their 50s. And they haven't gotten out of that because they don't have a bigger world view than the one that they see in the mirror. And when you can't get past that person you're looking at in the mirror, you know, that Michael Jackson song, that man in the mirror is going to take you down. If you can't have a vision further than that,
right,
it's difficult to be better. It's difficult to grow. You can't be the person you want your kids to look up to.
Well, and the ultimate is what we were just discussing. Not only is it difficult to grow here and become, you know, something more than yourself, but what about eternity? I mean, if you don't die to yourself and start, you know, living to have purpose, and with purpose I mean, like, you know, what is our existence? Why are we here? You know, what are we doing? And instead of just trying to, you know, I want to get my next meal, or I want to make my next paycheck, or you know, get a reliable vehicle to take me down the road. I mean, those are neat things to have, but
necessities of our world.
Yeah, but they're not gonna create anything in terms of like hope or purpose, especially not like after death.
That's why I want to live here 90 years, just so I, you know, live here and then die. But you know what? I had a couple cool cars while I was here.
Right.
How awesome is that?
Nice house.
You know, and really hell on earth is just reliving that.
Yeah.
You know, that life existence over and over again, where nothing that you think about, or anything that you think about is no bigger than you.
Right.
Your world is limited to how good you are.
Well, you know, ultimately, if you think about it, Satan is here to kill, steal, and destroy. He's a deceiver. He's an ultimate deceiver. He's a liar.
Yeah.
And so when we get our minds set on something we think is valuable or important, you know, a lot of times it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got all this old stuff in here, and I like it. I love being around old stuff, and I like
of cars.
Yeah, these crazy cars, these crazy spoked wheeled cars. Anyways, but I like looking at the stuff. It makes me comfortable. I like older stuff. It reminds me of a time that was more simple.
Yeah.
Because I just get this feeling that like our whole world is just trying so hard to be complicated. And you know, baseball, for instance, which I always refer to, it's just becoming so complicated where, you know, everybody wants to overthink it, overplay it. God forbid you leave a stone unturned. And I understand that, you know, in that industry, there's so much money, and you want to have that edge, however you can get it. But, you know, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
And at what point in time does it become counterproductive because everybody else is doing it, or maybe even has a reverse effect because you make your players, your athletes, so cognitive of what they're doing that they lose their athleticism and ability to compete.
Yeah.
So to me, anything can be overdone.
Oh, 100%. And then why are you trying to fix something that wasn't broke?
Exactly.
Good gosh.
Well, and then back to this, you know, this purpose thing, you know, as far as like eternity and heaven and you know, why you get up in the morning was your question, right?
Why
do you get up in the morning? What makes you you excited? I'll tell you this, like an egg McMuffin.
Yeah.
It excites me sometimes.
Does it?
Well, I mean, because you just like, yeah.
If you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, sure.
Certain food,
but that's not your ultimate.
No, I mean, because once you get
it's a moment.
You don't crave
satisfaction.
It anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, so I think
you can easily get satisfied with your earthly cravings,
right? And I got it. Now what? Now what?
Yeah.
what now? Are you
Uh-huh.
content?
Yeah.
You're just going to be happy because I've got this little bungalow on the beach and I'm going to live happily ever after with no
Just hang out
purpose
here
and no responsibility. And, so you got to be careful kind of what you ask for maybe because
I don't think a lot of people even think about it or contemplate it anymore. I mean, it just seems like we're just going.
Yeah.
You know what? We're just trying to get Instagram clicks and hits, and we're trying to get as much money as we can, as fast as we can, and look as cool as we can, and just be polished. And no one's really thinking
there's no
about
substance.
or making sure I got to put enough money back to retire
Right.
so that I can stop working at 60 or 55 or whatever it is. That's our only concerns.
Yeah.
As it feels like when you look at your Facebook or whatever, that's what the big push is. And it's like we're gonna have to think a little bit further than that. We're gonna have to think a little bit deeper than that. And some people are. I'm not saying people aren't. Obviously we are, because we hang around. We were at church
Sure.
with some of them that they say
there's other
that's
people
what their
that
thought
are
is.
like-minded for sure.
But at the same time, I heard somebody say this the other day: Satan lets you go to church. Satan's fine with you going to church. Satan's fine with you raising your hands at church and praising God all you want, as long as you don't take it any further.
Right. Just leave it at the door when you walk out of there.
Walk out the door, and then you just come right back to me.
Yeah.
And so that's what we got to worry about. And I'll admit there's been many a time where I've walked out of church and then I was, right back to thinking whatever.
Well, maybe there's a
didn't
Kansas
feel
City
good.
Chiefs game, and you're
I'm
gonna
more
go
worried
some
about that.
beers
Yeah.
or some snacks, or who knows, family get-togethers.
Yeah, and your mind goes off to worldly things.
But I don't think that's bad necessarily. I think though, if you look at it like this, it's kind of takes on a different perspective. Is like, it's not that God's over here and everything else is over here. I think God can be the hub of it all. And no matter where you are and what you're doing, somehow, some way, he's in it. Yeah, he's associated with it. It's almost like he's like your cohort, your buddy. He's with you, and hopefully he's guiding you more than you're guiding yourself.
That's the hope, right?
Right. I mean, or hopefully you're hanging out with other people who are allowing God to guide them more than they're guiding themselves, and then they can in turn guide you a little bit. So, that goes to who you hang out with and the people you surround yourself with. There's so many deep perspectives, but it's just the whole idea of having something to wake up to in the morning. Is not something that's going to satisfy you immediately, and then all of a sudden, you're all peachy keen. You're going to be hungry again.
Yeah.
In another 3 hours.
It doesn't make me feel good inside, and doesn't sustain me emotionally and in a lot of ways physically, that Egg McMuffin. To whereas, there's been many a times where, if I can focus more on, growing in the Word or listening to worship music and things like that, to where I feel better than any high that I've ever experienced. Not that I've, done a lot of drugs by any means. That's not what I'm saying. But it's just this euphoria that comes over you that just makes you feel amazing, and you can stay in that daily.
Yeah.
And if you can at least get your focus to those things, but man, it's so easy
that feeling
to
is
come off of it.
That you're just talking about is like how would you describe that? It's like a security, a purity, a cleansing. It's just like a sense of belonging. Just like love. You feel loved. You feel. I mean, there's just so many incredible experiences you can have as a believer that like you said, and I have done some drugs, but the sensation of what you feel as a believer, and when you experience God is far greater than anything you'll ever feel from a drug.
Yeah.
So that's something I always like to hope, in discussing that, because I know we have that common interest and to me it's just a place where I'm at in my life. It's become so clear and so real that I just like nothing else is going to ever potentially sway me from that. It's just like I don't understand why everybody else doesn't think that way. It's gotten to that point where it's just like, well, what are you guys doing? This is like, look at the world around you and start paying attention to detail, and you'll see like everything that's going on is essentially good and evil. It's heaven and hell. It's God and 100%. Satan. It's bipolar, and they can't coexist.
No,
not in the big picture, not in the long term. They can't coexist.
No,
good can't be in the presence of evil, and or it's got to be confronted. And so, where are we going from here?
Yeah,
as a culture,
straight to hell.
Well, I hope I know where I'm going, right. and I believe what I believe, and I know you do too. And as my wife and my daughters and most of my family and a lot of my friends, I just hope that more people come to that understanding. Because otherwise, I don't get it. I don't get why you would wake up in the morning and feel excited about your day.
Yeah, and I agree. We're probably getting close to the end of this conversation, I think. But I'm not trying to just shut it off either. I heard somebody ask a pastor the other day, because of all of this stuff going on in Israel, kind of ties in what we've been talking about. Do you think the rapture is near? Do you think this is end times right here? This is what's happening. This is end times. And he basically said, and I'm just going to wrap it up tight, is why are you worrying about that? We're a day closer today than we were yesterday to the rapture. Right. So what we ought to be doing and what we ought to be focusing on goes exactly to what you were just saying, is to be the light for God of this world. We need to be looking for people to bring to God. We need to be pushing the word of God more and more. If we think if this is it, then why aren't we doing that? Well, instead of being so focused on what's going on, let's be ready to, bring others with us. Yeah. And that's where our focus ought to be. And I don't think our focus is
because we're being attacked.
We're being attacked. We're being attacked every single day.
Yeah, so we need the old cities, the old citadels, they used to have that guy on the wall that would sound that horn, and that's what we should be doing. We should be sounding the horn and warning people, like, and if it truly is close to the end times,
we shouldn't be distracted by this war.
No, and it says in terms of the end times, it speaks of birth pains, wars, rumors of wars, famine, pestilence, which is disease. Think of COVID, and all this stuff going on. So, obviously the birth pains are clear. Yeah. But the Bible's also very clear in saying that no one knows the time of the hour, not even the Son.
And if somebody says they do,
that's
ignore them.
That's just a false.
Don't pay any attention.
Yeah, and it says, like you said, just be ready.
Be ready.
And that essentially, to me, that means believe that Jesus Christ is who He said He was.
Yeah.
And heed that, because He's coming back, and I hope everybody, or hope a lot, as many as possible, make that decision before it's too late.
Well, so what that means is we shouldn't just be getting on our Facebooks and our Instagrams or whatever and screaming about the war that's going on. We should be telling people, kind of like, I think, not to toot our horns, I think was kind of what we did some today with this conversation. We should be having conversations like this, and we should be inviting people to have conversations with us, and just saying, we think there's a better way. And if you don't know what we're talking about,
seek it out.
Seek it out.
This isn't us tooting our horns, though. To me, it's more. It's more like I'm tooting.
Tooting.
I'm tooting.
You're Tootie. Such a child. You Tootie.
The
Brad's
point is like
Tootie.
again, it's the
I
horn.
thought there-
It's the horn that everyone
Yeah,
else
you're
needs to hear.
Yeah.
And you know what?
We're
Someone
putting our light on the hill.
I heard that
We're
horn.
not covering it up.
You know, in my life,
Oh, okay.
you know, I heard that horn because obviously somebody's told me
100%.
that, you know, hey, you know what, this is real, and
Hey, wake up.
You know,
Yeah.
more than one person has convinced me that it's legit. You
Yep.
know, it's near and dear to my heart now, and I just, you know, I hope I'd never have a friend or a family member or an enemy
Have
for
any
that
doubt.
matter who don't get an opportunity to accept Christ as their Savior and go to heaven.
Yeah.
Because
But-
I mean,
absolutely.
you know, the worst person in the world can make that decision.
Yep. 100%. So, I don't know.
Let's get out of here.
Let's do.
I'm out.
I think I'm about ready to slide out of this very comfy couch.
get squirty done. You just
I
kind of
get shorter and shorter the longer we talk.
At least you're not tooting.
I'm not tooting. Well, if you tooted on that couch, we would all have heard it.
Well, but it doesn't. At least it doesn't stay in the couch.
All right.
It's leather.
Bye, Brad.
Bye, Troy. Good talking to you.
Yeah, later.